All right, good evening. Welcome to this live. Now, there have been a series of worrying incidents in the news coming out of Bangladesh. And we've been talking a lot about um, what this really means. And, stray incidents, or is there actually a pattern emerging? Is there a problem in Bangladesh? Are Hindus being targeted? And what can or should India do about it? That's the breakdown that we're actually going to go through. And my team and I have put together a lot of information about what's happening in Bangladesh and if Hindus are really being targeted, what are India's options on the table? That's what we're looking at. So I'm going to take you through this piece by piece. Now you'll remember Sheikh Hasina was ousted in August. There were a lot of protests against her. She then came to India, where she remains, and her country has begun. They are trying her in the country, but also Muhammad Yunus, who is a Nobel laureate who's taken her place, has now talked about possibly trying her at the international court as well. In the meantime, there have been a spike in the number of attacks against minorities. Now, Mohammed Yunus has come out to say that as far as he's concerned, minorities are safe and they're doing everything within their power. But are they really? That's the question to ask. Now, there have been multiple incidents of violence, vandalism, desecration of places of worship. I want to start with taking you through. Let me share the screen. This is an editorial opinion on the Indian Express that you're looking at. As you can see, it basically says Bangladesh must work harder to build trust with minorities. And it goes on to list out the various problems that have been reported in the country. Apart from the fact that there have been continued attacks on homes of people of minority religions, on their businesses, their shops, their places of worship, the Bangladesh interim government, in fact, seems to have aggravated the problem by cracking down on people who have taken to the streets asking for safety. So there have been a large number of clashes between the police and those protesting against these attacks. And the police also last week, and this is the really important one, arrested a former member of ISKCON who's been at the forefront of these protests demanding protection for minorities and trials and and prosecution for those people who have been attacking minorities. And that is really at the crux of everything that we're talking about. Um, there's a report that says, Bangladeshi's minority Hindus have faced over 200 attacks in 50 odd districts after Sheikh Hasina's government was moved out on the 5th of August. There's also now this article on the Indian Express says the Berlin-based human rights group called Transparency International has said minorities have been targeted in more than 2,000 incidents since Sheikh Hasina had fled the country, and that is where the problem is. The second article that I'm taking you through is this one, which is on your screen right now. Just give me one second. There it is. And this is also the Indian Express. And this is written by Arjun Sen Gupta. It talks about the increase of attacks against minorities and why the Yunus government needs to be held more accountable for what is actually going on. It also gives a sort of status of what the Hindus population is. And it says that as of 2022, in the census, there's a little more than 13 million Hindus in Bangladesh, and they're about close to about 8% of that population. But there are other minorities as well, Buddhist Christians, which add up to less than 1%. And basically, it's a country where Muslims form the majority at 91% of the total population. And so, really, that theoretically, it is said that in any secular democracy, in any democracy, the minorities live at the gift of the majority. So it's when the majority decides to be kind and welcoming and really exercise the idea of fraternity, that we are all equal, it is only then that the minority can enjoy all of those gifts. And I suppose that is where the big question is coming in. So now I want to introduce you to the individual at the sort of the the middle of this entire controversy, right? And this is a monk called Chinmoy Krishnadas Brahmachari. You can see a photograph of him right now, and this article is actually from the Economic Times that we pulled out. It's titled "Who is Chinmoy Krishnadas Brahmachari?" The ex-ISKCON member. This is important. Caught in the middle of the communal tensions of Bangladesh. Now, the important thing to remember that he used to be with ISKCON, but in October he was expelled from ISKCON for violating the group's internal rules. He continues to be a really popular person and an outspoken person, on religious minorities in Bangladesh, specifically for Hindus. Now, this is a really important part of this entire story: is that this individual is Bangladeshi. He's Hindu, but he's Bangladeshi. He's a Bangladeshi national. And that will come into play when we talk about whether or not, what India can do at this point. Now, we understand that Das has been an outspoken critic of persecution of religious minorities. And in since he's been arrested, there's been violence that's erupted from his protesters. Now, he was arrested, from what we understand, on sedition charges, and it was accused that he had actually, in one of the speeches in late October, he was one of the 19 people allegedly that hoisted a saffron flag higher than the Bangladeshi national flag in Chittagong. And this incident allegedly happened on the 25th of October. And he is then, he has then faced accusations of desecration and contempt on the country's sovereignty. So that's the accusation against him in court that he's been arrested for. He was then arrested. Then he was arrested. The complainant was one Mr. Mohammad Firoz Khan, who claimed that the actions were meant to destabilize the country. So Das was arrested at Dhaka airport November 25th. So a whole month after that incident had taken place, and his detention has triggered protests among the Hindu community, and tensions flared across Chittagong, where communal violence erupted, and one person lost his life in that, in the violence that came out of that. What happened after that is, of course, there was a petition filed in Bangladesh's Supreme Court to ban ISKCON as an organization in the country, calling it a fundamental group. Now, ISKCON has vehemently rejected these claims. The petition received significant backing from student organizations. Remember, it was the student organizations that have turned almost completely far right, who ousted Sheikh Hasina to begin with. But despite all of those sort of calls from these organizations to ban ISKCON, the Dhaka High Court has rejected that petition and said that ISKCON will not be banned. But that was, it caused a fair amount of sort of diplomatic fallout. And, the report from Transparency International then came in after that. And like I said, it all came around the idea of what happens when Chinmoy Das got arrested. I want to give you a News 18, report. There was the other problem that happened after Chinmoy Das was arrested was his lawyer was attacked, allegedly. And I'm saying allegedly for a reason. Now, first of all, the Bar Association, from what we understand, and this is the News 18 report, the Bar Association at Chattogram Court postponed the hearing. So he's not gotten bail. He's been arrested, remember, the 25th of November. His bail now has been posted. His hearing has been posted for the 2nd of January. So they keep pushing his bail hearing. He's not getting bail. And according to some sources quoted by News 18, and I'll just open this News 18 article for you, which reads, "No lawyer appears for Hindu monk Chinmoy Das in Bangladesh, bail hearing postponed to next month." Now, according to the sources, the Bar Association lawyers barred any lawyer from appearing for him. Former members of the International Society of Krishna Consciousness, which is ISKCON, um, sorry, he's a former member of ISKCON, and he was arrested. The advocate who was defending him, and this is something that has come from the Kolkata branch of ISKCON, who has said that the advocate who was defending him actually was attacked. His home was ransacked, and he was brutally attacked, and he is now fighting for his life. Now, this has not been confirmed by the media in Bangladesh. ISKCON Kolkata appealed to the Bangladesh government to ensure the safety of lawyers who are willing to be present for Krishna Das. And this has added to a lot of the worry because if Hindus are being arrested and no one's being allowed to defend them in the court of law, this actually really fundamentally infringes on their fundamental rights for justice. Now, there are two or three articles talking about the fact that his lawyer was brutally attacked and that no other lawyers are currently, choosing to represent him at all. This is another story in the Hindustan Times titled Chinmay Das's lawyer brutally attacked, his chambers vandalized, claims ISKCON Kolkata. Remember, this is a story that has come from a tweet by ISKCON Kolkata. Um, so, a fair amount of concern really about his, personal rights at this point. I was going to tell you that the students group that was up against Hasina's government was called Students Against Discrimination. The national coordinator of that group focused on the government's employment quota system. But really, what has happened since then is that that group has sort of expanded and become slightly fundamentalist. There's also a report that has come up now about, and it's a report by the Daily Star newspaper that said immigration police has stopped monks from various districts of Bangladesh for not having specific government approval to travel, and they were barred from entering India. The monks arrived at the border wanting to cross over to India, but the immigration police have not allowed them to cross over. And that again is causing a fair amount of concern. This is an article at First Post that said ISKCON monks say Bangladesh barred 63 monks from visiting India, saying, that it is a safety reason. Now, remember, ISKCON is an international organization. It's all over the world. You travel all over the world. ISKCON has its centers all over the world. It particularly seems to be under the, in the spotlight in Bangladesh. Now, what Bangladesh has said about this is the officer in charge has said we consulted a special branch of police and received instructions from high authorities not to permit them from crossing the border. He went on to claim that the devotees carried valid passports but were lacking government permission to make that crossing. So that's another reason why there does seem to be a reason for concern about the rights of minorities in Bangladesh. I want to now take you through the diplomatic fallout, right? So, what happens now and what can India do? The Chinmay Das episode is the latest flashpoint between Delhi and Dhaka, but there have been a series of problems. Now, India has responded to this, and I'm taking you now to the Ministry of External Affairs statement. There it is on your screen. I'll just read it out for you. Now, this is what the statement is a sharp statement by India that says we've noted with deep concern the arrest and denial of bail of Sri Chinmoy Krishna Das, who is the spokesperson of the Bangladesh Samlit Sanatan Jagran Jyoti. Now, the incident follows multiple attacks on Hindus and other minorities. There are several documented cases of arson, of looting of minorities' homes and business establishments, as well as theft, vandalism, and desecration of deities and temples. It is unfortunate while the perpetrators of these incidents remain at large, the charges should be pressed against a religious leader who is asking legitimate demands through peaceful gathering. Now, this is the statement made by the Ministry of External Affairs of India. The government of Bangladesh has termed the issue a matter of internal concern. Now, in response, and there's a live, a Mint article that we'll take you through 1 second. In the Mint article, the government of Bangladesh has basically said that this is an internal matter, um, and I'll read out that statement to you as well. The government of Bangladesh would like to reiterate that the country's judiciary is fully independent and does not interfere with the work of the judiciary. The matter under question is at present being dealt with in a court of law. The government of Bangladesh is committed to upholding communal harmony in the country. Um, Obviously, this is now lip service at this point because the evidence that we're seeing on the ground is to the contrary. It completely disregards the government of Bangladesh's determined conclusivity and culture of impunity to perpetrators. So it goes on to say that the government will treat all religious minorities and majorities alike, basically. But the evidence doesn't doesn't support that, and that is where the problem is. And that is what India is bringing up as well. Now, here is what has happened. The anger has continued to build up in India because of the lack of sort of cognizance being taken by the Bangladesh government. There have been protests in India, and specifically in West Bengal, because that's where the border is. That's the sensitive bit. Um, West Bengal, we've had protests in Assam. Uh, we've protests now. This is the story that I'm reading out of the Telegraph that said hospital turns down Bangladeshi queries. Bias not based on religion, says the director. Now, this is, according to the Telegraph, this is J&Ray Hospital that has announced its decision not to treat any Bangladeshi patients. It's turned down admission of queries from 4 patients from Bangladesh. The hospital, whose owner is the BJP councillor, had 20% of the 141 beds occupied by Bangladeshi patients every month, the director said, but it has now decided that it will no longer admit any patients from Bangladesh. And that's another question. There is also a Times of India article that I want to take to you after that. So it's not just hospitals now. We now have hotels, restaurants in Tripura saying that they will not serve Bangladeshi citizens. This is the Tripura Hotel and Restaurant Owners Association that has decided to stop serving guests in Bangladesh, citing disrespect shown towards the Indian flag and atrocities against minorities in the country. Now, there have been reports about the fact that these student groups that we're talking about in Bangladesh have painted the India flag on the road. Um, Along with the Israeli flag, and students who are walking into campus are stomping on it, the painting on the road. They're walking over the painting on the road, and that is being seen as disrespect shown towards the India flag as well. And this is what this group is reacting to, where they say hospitals, hotels, and restaurants won't serve Bangladeshi citizens who come in to the country. Now, what happened in Agartala, and this is a Hindustan Times article, and this is where, it starts to get more complicated. What happened in Agartala is there was a protest that was outside of the Bangladesh embassy, High Commission, and a large number of activists of social organizations, of protested outside the Bangladeshi High Commission's office, and a group of 4 or 5 people actually stormed into the office. They damaged some of the furniture, the flower pots, and they attempted to remove the Bangladeshi national flag from its pole. The Tripura police have arrested, from what we understand, 7 people involved in that incident. Three suspended 3 police officers, and there is a departmental proceeding that has now begun. But in the meantime, what has happened since then is that the Bangladeshi Assistant High Commissioner in Agartala has suspended all consular services till further notice, citing security reasons. And this is where the sort of diplomacy problem now starts to happen. In official reactions, the Ministry of External Affairs of India has strongly condemned that breach. And the Bangladeshi Assistant High Commissioner has said, had described the problem as deeply regrettable. Not satisfied with this reaction, Bangladesh summoned Indian High Commissioner Pranay Verma. After the meeting, the Indian High Commissioner has said that we have a wide ranging, multifaceted relationship. And as I have said before, you cannot reduce it to one issue or one agenda. We are working across many issues. Um, India always wants to build a positive, stable, conducive relationship, and there are many interdependencies that we have, and we want to build on that for mutual benefit. End quote. Now, that's the diplomatic route. There is, of course, the political route. Now, neighbors to Bangladesh on our side of the border is West Bengal. Mamata Banerjee has become active, and I'll show you this article where Mamata Banerjee has asked for a UN force in Bangladesh and said PM Modi must intervene. Now, I must point out to you that this is politics, right? And she's basically said, and I'm quoting from this article where she said, we have families, properties, and loved ones in Bangladesh. We accept whatever stance the government of India takes on this. We condemn atrocities on religious grounds anywhere in the world. and we appeal to the union government and the Prime Minister to intervene. Now, she's gone on to say that if Indians are attacked in Bangladesh, we cannot tolerate it. We bring back our people. The government of India must take up this matter with the United Nations. A peacekeeping force must be set. Now, here's the question. All of the people we talked about so far are Bangladeshi citizens who happen to be Hindu. They're not citizens of India that we know of who have specifically been attacked. And for as long as they're Bangladeshi citizens, the uh, the the sort of room that India has to take action is limited. Um, and that is where there is that gray area. Now, the Prime Minister last week met with External Affairs Minister Shankar to discuss the issue, after which we understand that Mr. Shankar called on Bangladesh's government, and the Indian government expressed serious concern of what is happening in the country. Now, after his meeting with the Prime Minister, Mr. Shankar briefed Parliament, and he said the Indian government has taken serious view of the violence against the minorities in Bangladesh. Now, I'm quoting what he said. He said, the primary responsibility for the protection of life and liberty of all citizens of Bangladesh, including minorities, rests with the government of Bangladesh. And he said that the Indian High Commission is monitoring the situation and the safety of minorities in Bangladesh very closely. And that is really, where there has been where India has sort of used this space to bring it up to the forefront and discuss it. We also remember that US President Donald Trump had put out, now President elect, he put out a Diwali message before the election where he said, I strongly, and I'm quoting here, I strongly condemn barbaric violence against Hindus, Christians, and other minorities who are being attacked and looted by mobs in Bangladesh, which remains in a total state of chaos. Now, this is very different from the stance that's been taken by the Biden government that hasn't commented on the matter at all. So, this could also mean that come January 6th or 7th, when Donald Trump actually takes over, he will take a more stringent stand against it. But fundamentally, what are we left with? We're left with the idea of a country that continues to reiterate repeatedly that it is a secular country and that minorities and majority are treated equally, but it's not what we see on the ground. It is not what is actually actioning on the ground. The minorities in Bangladesh are not safe, and the those who demand justice are being targeted, and their cases being brought against them. They are being denied basic justice in the sense that they're being denied lawyers to represent them. They're being denied, their day in court. They're not getting bail. They're just being given, date after date after date. And just because they're from a religious minority, they're not being granted bail, and they're being thrown into jail for demanding justice and for demanding their rights. So fundamentally, you cannot call yourself a secular country if the religious minorities of your country are having their shops looted, they're having their homes broken into, they're having their places of worship targeted and desecrated. That means you are not a secular government, and you need to come out and own up to that. Or you need to show changes on the ground. And I think that that's the message really that needs to go out to Bangladesh or any secular government that continues to say that it's secular, that you have to indeed in the eyes of the law, in front of your courts, in front of your police, in front of your government, treat majority and minority exactly the same way. Leave me a comment on what you believe, the Indian government ought to be doing, and what your reading is of what's happening in Bangladesh, and if there's a possibility that this would, at any point, cool off. Remember to like, share, subscribe, and let me know what other topics we can take up on this subject. Thanks for watching.